In today's episode, we're talking about how to recover from burnout without quitting your job. I'm Coach Jay, behavior change specialist, founder of Your Best Unlocked, and creator of the Realignment Protocol. I work with high achieving professionals who've built success but still feel empty behind the grind. If you ever laid down, looked around at your life, and asked yourself, is this it? This podcast is your answer. We're not here for fluff. We're here to recalibrate your identity, rebuild your purpose, and create systems that align with your life, not just your work. This here is your wake up call. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, like I said, we're talking about burnout. You're probably burned out, but you're also successful, which means quitting your job doesn't feel like a realistic option. If you're waking up tired, checked out, or emotionally numb, you're not alone. And today, I'll show you why quitting isn't your only option and what actually works. So, what is burnout? Burnout is physical or mental collapse caused by overwork or stress. And there's a couple of myths that I'm going to attack today because usually what happens is people like to deploy these myths and thinking they're solving the problem. But what we've come to find out is that people are only solving the problem on the surface and they're never really getting to the root of the problem. So let's go ahead and bust myth number one. Myth number one, you probably said this yourself personally. It's if I just take a break, I'll feel better. Listen, like I said, this is helping the surface, but it's not addressing the underlying problem, the underlying root of the problem. So breaks will help your body, right? We all need rest. We all need to make sure we're getting ample amount of sleep, but it's not going to help with your identity issue, your misalignment issue. Okay, so that's number one. That's myth number one. Myth number two is people will say to themselves, well, this is just a rough season. Well, no, because this is chronic, not circumstantial. This has been attacking you for a long time now. This is not something that this is the first week of this is happening. And so again, when people lie to themselves and say, it's just a rough season of my life. No, rough season of your life may last a week, maybe two. But once it starts to get to month one, month two, month three, month six, year two, this is something that is chronic and not circumstantial. Okay. And so myth number three is, well, I just need to leave my job. Or even worse, I just need to throw everything away. I need to hit the nuke button and just blow everything up. Right. Well, maybe that's your answer. But more often, what you really need to do is return to yourself. So, like I said, you are not the only person that is going through this. And in fact, this statistic might actually blow you away. 76% of professionals report burnout, but very few address the root, a disconnection from who they are and what they value. Okay. So let's talk about what is actually happening. You've been performing for so long, you've lost connection to who you are. You've outgrown your current identity, but you haven't upgraded it. Burnout isn't about the job, it's about being misaligned in that job. Your energy is drained because you're living out of sync with your own values and vision. So once we get below the surface of burnout, we start to realize that this is actually communication from yourself to yourself. And what you're communicating is this needs to change. Okay. Because again, when we say communication, a lot of people think communication is the way that we're doing right now. But your body, its own living entity, has multiple different ways that it can communicate to you. If you've ever worked out very hard, the next day you're going to wake up sore. That's your body communicating that, hey, something is happening here. There is a process going on, and I need you to take it easy. That way I can recover and put it back to where it was, if not even better. Okay. There are some of you that have other issues that maybe you can't go to sleep at night. You may have something like insomnia. There is an underlying communication as to why that is happening. And it is your job to develop the relationship with yourself That way you understand exactly what is going on and you can provide yourself with exactly what you need in order to overcome whatever it is that you are going through. Because every communication has a different answer to solve that problem. And burnout is not an exception. Okay, so again, we're going to be talking about the misalignment that is going on that's usually tied to burnout. So let's go ahead and talk about the first talking point that I said earlier, which is you've been performing for so long that you've lost connection to who you are. If you're a long time listener, you've heard me talk about this before. It's whenever we start the job or whenever we start the journey or whenever we start the career, whatever it is that you're going through, there is going to be a projection of where it is that you want to be, whether it's in 6 months, 12 months, a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, right? And we put so much focus, so much time, attention, and energy into not only pouring into making that a reality, but also pouring that into who we are. And as we start to develop, as we start to grow, as we start to step into the identity that we have formed, we never really thought about what happens next after we've built that. And that's where we're at right now. You are at the point to where you have built yourself and the things around you to accomplish what you have set out for yourself to do. And so now it's not the time for you to keep building and keep building and keep building. It's not. Now it's time to project another 6 months, another year, another 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years to see where it is that you want to go. That's ultimately going to lead to your fulfillment. Most professionals that I see, they make the mistake of saying, okay, now I have to think of another 10-year plan that is revolved around my career. No, this is where a lot of people get it wrong. This is where a lot of people, no matter how high they get, no matter how many promotions, how much income they increase, they still feel that emptiness on the inside. And it's simply because when you've reached this point that where we're at right now, that crossroads, it's either the answer is not to continue doing what you are already doing at an even higher level. This is where we consult with ourselves and ask ourselves, is this where we want to go in the next 5, 10 years? Or am I using this to get me to a completely different area in my life to reach what I would call lasting fulfillment? And most people don't go over this with themselves. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the second talking point that I have for you here, which is you've outgrown your current identity but haven't upgraded it. See, the professional part of you has been developed. Even the personal part of you that is related to the professional part of you has been developed. But again, we're at the crossword where it's like we have to go back to the drawing board and ask ourselves, what are the goals, that the vision that we have for ourselves, and who do we have to become the best version of that? So let me give you guys a quick example. A quick example is of a person, let's say you were 18 years old again, and you had your head on straight, right? You decided that you were going to get into a career and you wanted to get to senior level in the next 12 years. Well, let's say that everything goes well and everything is going right, and you are now at that level 30 years old, okay? Or at least a level that is high enough to where it makes a difference. Now you're at the point where should I double down and try to get even more, even higher? Should I reach partner? Should I go even higher? Or is it time for me to use all of the things that I've accumulated right now to then switch to, let's say, for an example, family life? See, because if you go inside of yourself in this example and we say, okay, I'm at the point where I've built this career, but it no longer satisfies me. And what does satisfy me at this moment is I want to start a family, let's say, for an example. Well, being a family man is a completely different ballgame than being somebody who is a professional. And trying to double down on your professionalism is the wrong move for somebody who is trying to develop the family man or woman inside of themselves. Does that make sense? And so what you would have to do is figure out, okay, well, what are the goals what I want, not just for my work, but also for the family that I want to develop. Who do I have to become? What do I have to study? What are the actions that I have to take? And more importantly, what is the upgraded identity that I'm going to have to embody in order to make sure that I do this at the level that I want. So again, that's going to lead me into the third talking point right here, which is burnout isn't only about the job. It's about being misaligned in that job. See, whenever you start, let's say again, we're using the family for example. Whenever we are at that point to where we reach that level, most people will get to the point where they say, okay, well, I am capable of more. And they use that energy to say, okay, how can I get even higher? How could I get even more of a salary? But the reasoning behind it isn't connected to anything other than self gratification. But if we were to take, now that we understand where we're trying to align our new identity with, you realize that you have enough money to do the things that you need to do, which means you don't need to try to increase your salary or go after that new position, right? What we needs to be focused on is a lot of time, attention, and energy needs to be focused on maybe using that money or using your connections to be finding other professionals in the family category. It's simply a what's the word I'm looking for? It's simply a redirection of the energy that you have spent so long in one area. And now we have to go from, instead of 100% into the career, we might go 50% career, 50% family, or depending on who you are, you might go 75% family and 25% into your career. It's all about, this is a very personal to you, and there is no one size fits all system that comes from this. Okay, so the framework, the very simple framework that you're going to have to do is really reconnect who you are. This is why I created the realignment protocol, because in order for you to understand who you are and what it is that you want and ultimately fulfills you, there has to be a system out there for that, and that is the realignment protocol. And the first step of the realignment protocol, and it's a simple framework, is the first step is identity calibration. This is reconnecting with who you are, what matters, and what fuels you. When you were 18 to 30, there was a identity and there was a goal and a purpose and a vision that fueled you. Now that we're at that 30 mark, again, just an example, now that we're at that 30 mark, we're realizing that that no longer fuels us because it doesn't matter to us anymore. Now we have to go back and recalibrate who we are. That way we can have new meaning to what fuels us. Okay. And so if you want to do this personally, I highly suggest that you go and you take some type of personality test or assess your values, maybe some self-reflection or an honest inventory, of the things that you have going on in your life. And of course, I help people with this. And if you need help with that, go to yourbestunlocked.com and book a realignment call, and we can go ahead and get that sorted for you. But the first step, again, in my realignment protocol is identity calibration. We have to figure out who it is that we're working with and who it is that we are trying to be. Why do we wake up in the morning? Why does this fuel us? Okay. And that's what we're going to find out there. Once you figure that out, then it comes step 2, which is what I call vision mapping. Excuse me. This is defined as what your aligned life actually looks like, even with your current job. Okay. You have to ask yourself, what would fulfillment look like if nothing else changed but me? Okay. That way we can start to look and say, okay, this is what my life would look at. And then we simply reverse engineer it to come up with an action plan that says, if I get up every morning and I do this action plan, it's going to lead me ultimately to the vision that I have for myself. Okay. But again, most people are trying to do the actions, but they don't know where they're going. This is how they end up getting all these accomplishments on paper, but still feeling empty. And the reason why they feel empty is because, again, these achievements aren't attached to a goal that is bigger than themselves. Does that make sense? So that's vision mapping. In step 3, the last but not least step into the realignment protocol is the alignment loop. This is creating routines, rituals that support your energy, your values, and more importantly, your relationships. This is something that you can create a plan. And then once you go out into real life, you realize that, oh, okay, there are some things that need to change. Okay. And that is exactly what the alignment loop is. It's having a plan, going out into the world, and then realizing that the world has different plans for you, but it's allowing you to go back to review and revise your plan. That way you can adapt to what's going on around you and still be proactive in your life and obtaining the vision that you have set for yourself. Okay. This is about rebuilding. Okay. This is not escaping. Being burnt out and wanting to burn everything to the ground and be a monk and move to some mountainous country, that's escaping. We're trying to run from who we are. We're trying because we don't have ourselves figured out. We're not self-aware enough to understand what it is that we want in the next 6 months, year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Okay. But I promise you that there is a system out there, the realignment protocol, that is going to allow you to return to yourself. And that's exactly what happened to my client, Dave. Dave was what I would call a workaholic. And that's all he would do because that's all he was focused on. But when we sat down and we had a real conversation, there were so many things that he wanted to do outside of work, but because he was so focused on work, work was all he knew. And so through the realignment protocol, we were able to figure out who he was and the things that he wanted to do. And then on step 2, figure out the action plan and the routine that allowed him to get to the new vision that he set for himself. And the amazing thing about this is the moment that we started, in the first 30 days, he was able to double his income. And it's like, how was he able to do that? And it was simply because instead of working just to work, we worked more intentional. And the reason why we worked more intentionally is because we wanted to carve out extra time to spend into doing the other things that we claim to ultimately care about. And here's the one thing that they don't talk about when it comes to trying new things and putting yourself in new environments. Not everybody is built to where they can say, you know what, I'm going to do this, and then tomorrow they go do it. That's not how things work. They may be able to do that for work purposes. They may be able to do that with career purposes. But everybody in my 10 years of doing this, they have a weakness in a particular area, whether it's your health, whether it's your wealth, whether it's your relationships, whether it's your overall purpose. There's somewhere, a different area in your life that you're going to be much more hesitant to put yourself out there when it comes to that area of your life. And that's was something that I was able to help Dave go through. So not only do we change his lifestyle from only being a workaholic and caring about work and being on the brink of burnout, but we were able to internally shift his identity and rebuild his life. So not only can he continue to work hard and progress in his career, but he also has some type of life outside of that that's going to lead to longer lasting fulfillment. And so very proud of Dave. And that's just one of the stories that I have for personal case studies that you can be a part of. Okay. And so listen, you don't have to walk away from work to stop burning out, but you do have to walk back toward yourself. If this is hitting too close to home, book your realignment call and let's recalibrate before this burnout turns into collapse. You can do that by going to yourbestunlocked.com and booking a realignment call. Again, that's yourbestunlocked.com. Let's go ahead and book that call and recalibrate before this burnout thing turns into collapse. Okay. So that's going to be today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. All right. Peace.